Jason, good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, very, very well on this Monday morning.
Excellent. Wellington is windy today or nice and sunny?
We've got one of those, can't beat Wellington on a good day days today. So I think about a high of 23, which is pretty good for us in little wind. So we've been pretty lucky with our weather down here so far.
Excellent. All right, well, hopefully it will continue and your year will continue to be as great as it has been in the past year. Um, Jason, you have a very interesting background because you really started with real estate before started in real estate. You bought your first house when you were 19, and you've bought and sold after that a few years. You were involved in the business world in startup companies, and you're sitting in boards of a few companies right now. Um, why did you decide to get into real estate?
I guess sort of, touched it on the start. When I was a bit younger, I remember my father sort of, saying to me, I sort of worked at an after school job for quite a number of years and sort of had the ultimatum of should I purchase a vehicle or, buy an investment property, and sort of dad and I went back and forth, and he sort of pushed me into, buying that investment property
Mm,
rather than a liability such as a vehicle. And that really sort of started my journey with real estate, I think. I mean, it was a property up in Wanganui. I'm from Palmerston North originally, so it was a property up in Wanganui, and pretty entry level for a young fella at that time. So
yeah,
really, you just sort of invigorated a love of property from an early age, I guess. And looking back now, I mean, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, was not
mm,
buying that car and buying that investment property.
yeah, yeah. So that started you into the world of really dealing with properties. But what made you decide? Because you've been, I think you said you've been in the industry now for about 5.5 years. What made you decide to jump into from the dealing side and into the water of selling real estate?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I sort of went away after university and sort of started a small business. So I always kind of knew from that point I wanted to sort of, be my own boss and have my own business, and sort of enjoy the or perceived freedoms that come with that, as well. So, after I sort of sold my first business, I sort of revisited things and looked at life at that point and said, right, I want to, jump into the property game on sort of the other side of it all. So I had a lot of dealings with, various agents and that sort of thing with other property transactions, and I thought I'd be a really, really good fit for the industry.
Mm,
Um, and as it sort of turns out, it's sort of been a really, really good decision, for us, and one I've never ever regret.
yeah, yeah. So it's really really interesting for me because you're coming from the buying and selling side, and then you're switching into being a salesperson. So you're now on the other side. How did you kickstart your business? What did you do, and how was it? Did you think it would be easy and it was harder, or was it what you thought it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I did know quite a few sort of real estate agents, at that time, and I guess the perception is quite often that this job is quite easy,
Mm,
and you sort of go in a little bit blindfolded, I think, and you find out quite quickly that the all the bits and pieces that sort of the public see, I guess, with real estate
yeah.
aren't what it sort of seems, But look, that's something that I really really enjoyed, about the job. I guess it sort of helped me on the sort of buying side and selling side. Previously to getting into real estate, I sort of understood the transactions to a certain degree. So when I went through and did my license, kind of knew quite a bit of the content and sort of what was required from a legal standpoint, as well. And came out of Commerce and Administration at Victoria University and did commercial law as well. So it certainly sort of helped sort of kickstart things. But as a sort of young agent coming in, I thought I had a pretty good grasp on the industry at that time. But as it turns out, I had a lot to learn,
Yeah.
especially sort of in those early days. So, aligning myself with the company that I'm here with now, sort of allowed me to sort of further, my knowledge and capability as an agent.
Yeah, yeah. And when you started, it's always really interesting for me. Did you start working with people that you knew and connections, or was it a little bit more, hey, I'll go out and I'll knock on doors and I'll make cold calls, or combination? How did you start?
Yeah, look, so it's probably a combination of both. I mean, as any new agent will sort of tell you, I mean, getting yourself established, creating trust with it within the marketplace is pretty difficult early on,
Mm,
especially if you're a little bit younger. I mean, I sort of started when I was what 20, 27, 28, I think it was. So, you know, getting people to trust you with their property is relatively sort of difficult. So early on, I sort of did lean on those existing relationships that
mm,
that I did have. I'd been in Wellington for probably 6 or 7 years, at that time, and knew a few property managers, a few sort of lawyers, that sort of thing, which helped me sort of establish myself, quite early on. In terms of the prospecting side of it, leaning on some of the older agents, at Tommy's, going grabbing some of their own old open home registers, which we
mm,
used to sort of write out in those days, was really really helpful. And just in terms of that sort of that journey that you go on. I mean, really working those buyers early on, which a lot of young agents, sort of do. So, the first sort of 3 or 4 transactions were selling other more established agents at property. Getting your confidence up, learning that side of it, then moving into the listing side of it as well. So, early on, I sort of did really lean on my centres of influence, those property managers, those solicitors. Those sorts of people to get going and try and get established.
yeah, yeah. And you're now you're well established, you're well known, your business is really good right now, and you're obviously very, very busy. How do you structure your day? How do you keep your day structured well so you don't go crazy?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's something I've got better at in the last sort of couple of years as the business has grown and sort of scaled. I've recently become a dad in the last sort of 14 months, so that's sort of been a bit of a shift and a bit of change just to sort of juggle and manage that as well. So I've had to get a whole lot more structured around my days and be quite consistent in setting time aside for family and but making sure the business doesn't sort of struggle as a result. So bringing resource in, it's really sort of helped me as administration
Mm,
staff. So taking away those sort of tasks where I can sort of focus more and be more productive with my time.
yeah,
So I mean, generally, in the mornings, day sort of starts at sort of 7:30. Now after a bit of family time in the morning, we move into getting the team sort of set up and ready to go, getting the PA ready to sort of carry out her activities for the day, so I can go out, sort of mid morning
mm,
through to about sort of 3:30, 4 o'clock, and do those really value add activities on the business.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, with the way real estate's sort of going at the moment, as every agent will sort of know, I mean, the impact that administration's having on the business with the likes of anti-money laundering, just
mm,
making sure your pre-listing stuff is really well nailed down, is very very difficult. It just sucks up a whole lot of time. So being able to delegate that to another party within the business has just been phenomenal for allowing me to sort of free up more time to do those those value add activities and get
mm.
out there on the ground, I guess, drumming up new business and selling property and listing new property.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really good point that you brought up about delegating the administration, because it is really over the last, I think, maybe 6 years, the amount of paperwork has really
Mm.
gone crazy. Um,
Yeah.
one of the things that I think you're really good at is your customer services. So doing slightly more, doing extra things to people that you work with, but it's always a kind of a balance, isn't it? Because we're many times, and I know that when I work with people, many times I tell them, don't waste your time doing things that you're not supposed to do. But then every once in a while, if you do the extra, then
Yeah.
you get a lot of business out of it. Do you, is that what you do as well?
Yeah, look, it is, and I agree, I disagree. I think the role of a real estate agent is sort of changing.
Mm,
You have to be quite a well-rounded sort of individual now, and give a lot of property advice where you can, and sort of mold into a bit of property advisory. So, that can come down from whether dealing with a first home buyer or a seasoned investor, being able to discuss it on their level, what they need to do, what they want to achieve out of the property, and how they go about sort of, doing that. Whether it's putting them in touch with the likes of, brokers, builders, doing feasibility reports, all that sort of thing, is really a key part, I believe, of a real estate agent, these days. So sort of facilitating the deal any way you can, in order to sort of achieve outcomes for that specific buyer.
mm,
And you're dead right. I mean, that customer service component sort of definitely, comes into it, these days with again, sort of tying all the different pieces of a transaction together in order to get that property sold, or that purchaser to buy that property, as well. So having a really good understanding, of the market is probably the first component of that, I would have thought,
mm.
and having a good understanding of this specific transaction, identifying what people are trying to achieve. Are they buying their house for their, first home? Is it, a 10th house in the portfolio? What do they want out of that house? Is really what it sort of boils down to in terms of, that customer service now, I think, that you sort of refer to.
Yeah, yeah. With customer service really is a crucial point in building your business, isn't it? It's one of
Mm.
those things that will make people remember you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, nurturing relationships, as well. So, whether it's a first home buyer or a developer selling 150 units, it's really, really important to sort of nurture relationships. And that's sort of something that, I do, whether it's just, giving a client a call, on the way to another appointment, seeing how their house is going, or seeing how a project's going, or is there anything else we can be doing at
Mm,
that particular stage for that property to get it sold. And again, those are the things that I think will, keep people coming back to you, repeat business, referral business, as if you just really focus on nurturing those relationships,
yeah,
rather than trying to establish, hundreds of new ones.
yeah,
I sort of find sometimes if you can, nurture those really good ones, and you can see that a client's going to, be a really, really good client sort of going forward, and they're going to refer your work and that sort of thing. I mean, look after them, and it's those sorts of pieces of customer service, I think, that's really important,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're absolutely right with what you said about nurturing and getting more out of that. So
Yeah.
that means that you are extremely busy, and even more busy right now, the way that the market is in Wellington. So, and I think touched on it a little bit earlier when you said you start your day at 7:30 with the family. But how do you work life outside in real estate and real estate? How do you have the ability to do that, or is it all mixed together?
Yeah, I guess, you're really lucky, first and foremost, to have a, really incredibly supportive wife. She kind of understands the nature of the game we're in, I guess.
Mm,
And that no days are sort of, different. We've got to be quite fluid, in what we do. I mean, with sort of a young family, I guess it can quite get, the time aspect of it can get quite
mm,
quite sort of challenging. So, um, I've got better at setting boundaries, especially in the last sort of, 18 months. But, at the same time, I mean, you've still got to be available to your clients. It's a huge part of their life as well when you're selling a property, or they're looking to buy one. So, in terms of, the day structure, I mean, I've got better at locking in time, with the family, whether
yeah,
it's a Saturday morning, or, early in the morning, or, I do try, to block out, a bit of time every day, whether it's 4 to 4:30, to go home and spend some time, and
mm,
that sort of thing. And just sort of, as much as you can, sort of pre-planning, your day, and just communicating, as well, whether you sort of share a calendar so you know what's sort of going on
Yeah,
has been quite beneficial, I think.
yeah,
So you can actually, sort of figure out, you
yeah,
know, when you'll be home, and how the day's sort of looking and that sort of thing. So something I'm trying to get better at as well. I mean, as you sort of mentioned, the market is sort of, pretty busy, at the moment. It's incredibly, busy time of year as well. But again, through the Christmas period, being able to have sort of a couple of weeks off, was really beneficial. I think everyone sort of needed that at the end of last year, by the sounds of it. So
mm,
yeah, that was really good.
yeah. Do you have something that you do in order to distress, a hobby, an activity, meditations, something that you go, right, this is my time where I offload all the energy and then restart?
Yeah, well, something I used to do was play a lot of golf. Again, it's sort of a 4-hour game, or sometimes a bit longer, depending on how you're going. But again, it, I don't know if it's de-stressing either sometimes, that game. It's quite the opposite. But look, try and do that sort of, every now and then. I sort of find got better as well, when you sort of, go home, just to sort of focus present at home, sort of try and just forget about, work for half an hour, or 45 minutes, and just focus on the present. So,
Yeah,
whether you've done sort of that meditation thing before, or not, that's a big part of it as well. So, setting time aside for that, just to sort of, as you said, sort of de-stress and decompress, is pretty important. You get much better outcomes as well if you can sort of manage to do that on the other side. With that. So, yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, in terms of that, I mean, spending time with the family is a great sort of, de-stressor as well. With, going to the zoo or the beach, or something like that, walking the dog, all those sorts of things are really, really important. It can be incredibly high pressure in this job, so taking care of yourself, and from that aspect, just becoming more and more important, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And looking into the future, are you looking at growing a bigger team, staying roughly where you're at, or what are your plans?
Yeah, look, something we're sort of, starting to do now. As I said, as the business progresses, just, one of my cornerstone goals is just sort of continued growth, and that's sort of built from momentum. So, we're quite lucky, with the place that I work, we've got really good sort of support systems and mentor programs, and that sort of thing, and new agents sort of coming through the ranks. So, yeah, in terms of my business myself, absolutely, we'll look to, sort of scale up,
Yeah,
a little bit more, and looking into the sort of future roadmap, I guess, with what's sort of coming up in my business pipeline. We'll definitely have to do that sort of sooner rather than later. Um, you know, Looking at buyers agents, as well, and giving them an opportunity as well to sort of upskill, much like I did, I guess,
mm,
is part of our sort of growth plan going forward.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so yeah, as I said, that's, going forward, growth is really, really, important to us, and part of the reason why this industry is so good is that the ability to continue to sort of, grow, whether it be, personally, financially, your business itself, your team, all that sort of thing, is again one of the appeals. It's,
yeah,
probably just that thing as well, just taking the leap, as well. Getting advice from some of your managers, your owners, successful ones in the industry as well. Just about how you go about doing that is really, really important. Making sure you're ready for that step, and what processes you have to put in place in order to make that happen.
mm,
Just never be sort of afraid or scared just to lean on someone else. Whether it's a coach, or, one of the senior agents, or one of your bosses. It's about bouncing ideas around, I think, in order to move into that next step.
yeah, yeah. Great, Jason. I really, really appreciate your time. I think you shared a lot of nuggets, a lot of things that can help salespeople, or people who are watching this, whether they're in real estate or sales in general. So I thank you for that. I appreciate it, and I know you are running into a presentation in a few
Yeah.
minutes. So
Yeah, no, good as gold. It's a pretty busy day Mondays, as I'm sure you're aware from your time in the trenches. So no, I appreciate the opportunity as well. It's been great. I just hope if you are watching this, you can grab a piece of that out. And again, if you ever want to ring up and have a chat, we're more than happy to do so.
Fabulous. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jason.